Welcome everyone to the all-important clash between Gukesh, the world champion, and Hikaru Nakamura. The clash between these two individuals becomes even more exciting after what happened in the India versus USA match that happened in Texas, where Hikaru managed to beat Gukesh, and then it was kind of a very interesting moment where he picked up Gukesh's king and threw it into the crowd. Of course, it was all for fun and it was all for the show, but still, it will be very exciting to see them clash once again here in St. Louis at Clutch Chess in Champions Showdown. This is the second round. Gukesh was up against Magnus in round number one, and he lost that match one and a half, those two games. But Hikaru was playing against Fabiano Caruana, and the score was 1-1. Now Hikaru has the white pieces against Gukesh. The players get ready. It's 10 minutes plus 5 seconds increment, and they are ready to kick things off. A handshake, and this, dear friends, is Duolingo Game of the Day. Duolingo is an app where you can learn languages, but now it also has chess, and you can get really better at chess using their app. Hikaru opens the game with pawn to d4. Gukesh brings out his knight, pawn to c4 and e6. Knight comes out to c3, and we have the Nimzo Indian. The Rubinstein system is played, black castles, and now bishop to d2. Very simple chess. Pawn comes to d5, knight to f3, and now you go pawn to c5. And Hikaru starts to think. The main move here is pawn to a3, questioning the bishop on b4. But it seems like Hikaru has forgotten the theory. He does play a3 after some thought. Bishop takes, pawn takes d4. Well, in a way, this should be slightly better for white because of the bishop pair. He takes, knight takes d4. And now rook e8, very quickly played. Gukesh's prep is top notch, and one would expect that from a world champion. Once you prepare for a world championship match, you do have a bag of ideas. Knight to f3, and the knight comes out to c6. Maybe just queen c2 should be a normal move. Rook comes to c1. And will Gukesh push the pawn to e5? He does. He opens up the bishop. He's now threatening to come straight with d4 in the center. His rook stands opposite the white king. So pawn takes pawn taken. And knight takes pawn, attacking the bishop on c3. Maybe bishop c4 is a possible move. He goes bishop to b5. And this is not a good idea. Because here, he goes bishop g4. But e4 would have been very, very strong, because knight d4 is met with queen g5 with attack here. Anyway, Gukesh goes bishop g4, bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and queen a4, attacking the bishop here and also the pawn on c6. Now you can take on f3, doubling the pawns, and it looks like a good move. Bishop takes f3, g takes f3, spoiling the structure. But Gukesh pushes the pawn to e4. And now the knight comes to d2. Opposite colored bishops, light squares in white's camp are weak. He takes on c3. And rook takes c3. So the c6 pawn is a bit weak, but black doesn't really care for it. Even if he loses the pawn, it should be fine. He goes rook b8. He's also stopped castling here because the d2 knight is hanging. So some concrete issues for Hikaru to solve. He defends the pawn. He also attacks the e4 pawn. Queen comes up to d5. Maybe now it's a good time to castle here. Well, maybe it is. But h3 played here by Hikaru. And Gukesh's move, bishop c8, I absolutely love it. He wants to swing the bishop here into this diagonal, and Hikaru quickly castles before the bishop stops him from doing so. Bishop a6, and now rook to e1 played. The bishop drops into d3 square. Queen shifts back to c1, and now rook e6, defending the pawn, also getting ready to swing the rook over to the king side. Knight f1, I like this move. The knight is coming to g3. He goes pawn to h6, a useful move, taking into control the back rank issues. And such moves are very difficult to make for weak players, but strong players always seem to find time to do useful stuff in their position. Rook to b5, maybe preparing the move. Pawn to a5. He goes knight to g3. And now pawn to a5 played, trying to open up the queen side. He takes b takes a5, and well, you can take back rook takes a5 in this position, but I love Gukesh's move c5. He's coming in with c4, and you can see that this bishop has become kind of an absolute nuisance in white's camp. It's so strongly positioned with c4 now. Knight e2, Hikaru is like, oh, I get this square now. Well, Gukesh quickly moves his rook to a6. Knight to f4, attacking the queen. So queen comes to e5, putting pressure on the c3 rook. So rook to c1. He takes on a5, queen a2 played. Look at white pieces, all super passive because of this entire setup. But it's not so easy for black to break through. How is Gukesh going to break in is the big question here. Rook a7, he goes back with the knight to e2. And now the knight wants to swivel again to the d4 square. He goes king to h7, knight comes into d4, queen to c5, attacking the pawn on a3. And now 3 attacks, he goes and defends. Rook a1, that's not a happy move to make. Queen d2, but Hikaru is known for his tenacity. He's known to not give up. Gukesh takes the open file, the b file. 1 minute 31 seconds for Hikaru, 21 seconds for Gukesh. Generally, Hikaru manages to trick his opponents with little time. Queen a6, again attacking the a3 pawn. I think Hikaru will just go back and he'll question Gukesh. How are you planning to break through, my friend? Gukesh needs to keep his cool. Rook a4, I love this move. I love that he's able to make calm moves even when he's being put under pressure. Queen d1, rook comes into b2. That second rank was given up. Queen comes to g4 now. Maybe some knight f5, queen g7 ideas here. Gukesh goes queen to f6. The queen comes to g3 now because the f2 pawn was hanging. He goes rook to b3, offering a trade. Fantastic chess here by Gukesh. If knight takes b3, the c3 rook is hanging. Can Hikaru come back with his rook simply? That seems like a fair thing to do. He's shaking his head here. Because if he comes back, he will lose the a3 pawn. That's a very good, great move by Gukesh. And Hikaru now down to last few seconds. He comes back rook c1 with just 9 seconds on his clock. And Gukesh chops off the pawn. Rook takes, rook takes. He's pawn up now. 13 seconds for Hikaru, 15 for Gukesh. Pawn to h4, c3. The c pawn starts moving forward. Well, Hikaru hesitating there. You don't see that often. And he plays king h2 with just 1 second on the clock. h5 played. And now rook a5. He's hitting the pawn here, queen g4. But now the f2 pawn is blundered. Gukesh chops it off and Hikaru is stunned. Rook g5 coming in. Everything's hanging. e3 is weak. It's game over here. Hikaru can't believe that he's blundered. He resigns. Gukesh beats Hikaru in a game that was really high class, I must say. He puts the black king right into the center of the board. One pawn falls down. The arbiter comes in. Gukesh has smile on his face. His first win in St. Louis here at the Clutch Chess Champion Showdown, which is a great confidence booster for the youngster. And well, also a win against Hikaru does his morale a world of good. Fantastic game by
Hi
Gukesh.
everyone, I hope you enjoyed the game. I want to tell you about Duolingo. This app, I used it extensively to learn languages when I was young. But I'm so thrilled that it now has chess on it. If you are a beginner, there are beginners courses here. If you are an advanced player, you also have different kinds of checkmates, different types of tactics, opening ideas. So you can make use of all of this. And what is very exciting is the way in which it is being taught. Oscar teaches you, who is a fun-loving character and a tutor, and it will give you some hints. There are streaks which are created. There are daily tasks that you can achieve. There are rewards. You can play against Oscar, and there's also a leaderboard. By the way, I'm leading on the leaderboard. My ID is Sagar Chess 1. Let's see if you can challenge me and get ahead of me. Download the app Duolingo and start your chess journey, no matter what your level is, and let's get better at chess.